Hey, everybody, remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
Yes. And of course, remember, IamMutant.com, big, proud sponsor of the show. Go to Mutant, Dusty20, Big Ron 20, get your 20% off, get your ISO Surge, get your all-in pre-workout, and everybody should be on the gear. Thanks very much. Hey, everybody, welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding. I'm your host, Big Ron Partlow. Of course, Scott, the producer, Dusty Hanshaw. And today on the show, we've got the triple threat. The guy who's done it all, which is one of the reasons we really want to talk to you. Jason Lowe, thanks for being on the show, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, where are you located right now? Where are you sitting with your Olympia medal and your, Dragon Ball statues and whatever's going on there?
This is my office at my house. I'm in like the Daytona Beach area of Florida.
Oh, that's a rough life.
Yeah.
When I think of Daytona Beach, as a Canadian, when I think of Daytona Beach, I think of like all the spring break movies and just constant drunk girls in bikinis just running everywhere. It's like homeless people and drug dealers. And
when I moved here, that's what I thought too. I grew up going to vacation here because my aunt lives on the beach. So every spring break we were here, we were in everything. We all had a blast. And then I moved here. I'm like, this is like a really small town full of all the people that came here for spring break in the 90s never left. And now they're just home.
Yeah, just fried, burned out people.
Yeah.
Wandered around.
If you see my Instagram stories, like in the mornings I walk the bridge that's outside the gym for my cardio a lot of times. And every time we get to the other side of the bridge, there's just a group of homeless people camped out there, like all methed out and everything.
Oh, man.
Yeah, get the full classic LA experience. Do you have a set of headphones?
I do. I've never used them.
I think, if you plug in, because I know we're going to have a little bit of the sound overlap. I can hear it. You know what I mean? When we speak and then it cuts his mic.
Yeah, if they work. If not, we can roll without them.
Yeah, we're good at doing both.
I've never used them on here, but we'll try.
Oh, cool. They've got a cord. That's perfect.
Yeah, because then they won't die. No one charges our headphones, Scott. You know, when people try the earbuds, they always...
Well, a lot of times the cordless ones don't link up with the program properly.
Yeah.
How's that working for you?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and it's not cutting out when we talk.
All right.
That's even better. Plus, it kind of looks like tech. It looks like you're like such a gamer that you've got like these expensive headphones. We can go with that. I like that. You know?
And the funny thing is, all the games I play are like the old school, like Super Nintendo games and stuff.
No kidding. That's amazing.
Really?
The best.
So first of all, I just want to start, when you came up to me in Toronto and you reminded me that that you watch the show all the time, I'm like, oh yeah, you do. You're always a flip-flop cardio guy, and I said to you right there, I'm like, we got to have you on the show because we got to first of all show some love to the actual pros who watch the show, which we still have a hard time with sometimes. We're like, we got pros watching this shit.
It's because we don't talk about bodybuilding. That's why.
Yeah. So I always have a laugh with like a real pro who's like, actively competing, and then your story is just really fascinating. You know what I mean? Like coming, classic through 212 into the open. Like that's, to me, that's like really hardcore, to like outgrow divisions and stuff. So why don't we just start there? Just tell us like what, how do you feel about how things have gone so far?
I mean, I'm loving it because honestly, in classic physique, I was at the weight limit the first year. Like I turned pro, and then I did like a month later, I did my pro debut, and I was pretty much at my limit. And then they gave us that was before they increased the weight limits. Then they gave us another 10 pounds. And within the next year, I was having to fast for 24 hours, take diuretics, sit in the sauna. Cool. Like I'm like curled up in a ball in a Cito's hotel room at the Arnold Classic. Like other people are coming in to check in. He's giving them donuts. You're flat, and I'm over there. I haven't eaten in 20 hours. Like he's like you can have a sip of water this hour. And I'm like dying. But I was already qualified for the Olympia that year, so I was like, all right, I'll do the Olympia, but that's it for classic. I can't do this again. So then
what year was that? What year?
2019.
2019. You did the Olympia as a classic guy.
Yeah.
And what
Arnold
did you
and
weigh?
the Olympia. I had to weigh in at 192.
Okay.
Yeah.
That hurts.
And I think 2 or 3 days out, I was like 206, did a photo shoot, peeled. And I was like, it sucked. So
Yeah.
I decided to go up to 212 the next year, and I wasn't actually anywhere close to the weight limit. I tried to play the size game at my debut in 212, and I just was not peeled. Like, it was the Tampa Pro. I think I placed 11th, maybe. And 5 weeks later was the New York Pro. It was the COVID year where they moved it to Tampa. And I was like, all right, Chris, I don't care about size. I need to redeem myself from Tampa. Let's get peeled as can be. And so we came in like almost 10 pounds lighter, and I got second place at the New York Pro.
That's cool.
Nice.
So, like, and I actually weighed the same at that show that I did at the Olympia in Classic Physique, except I didn't have to suck down and then cart back up.
Right.
I could eat into the show, so I was 200 pounds on stage at both of those shows.
Huh.
But for Classic, I had to suck down to 192 and then try and fill back out, and it just wasn't the same look.
Yeah. You're never going to get it right away. It's going to hit like a day or two later.
Right.
Yeah. So being able to eat into the show for 212, it was a way better look. And then we qualified for the Olympia again that year, 2020, for the 212 class, and I ended up in 11th, right behind Guy Sistanino for that. And then
Nice.
I did one more year in 212, and then decided to grow out into the Open.
So you looked great in Toronto. What did you weigh?
I was only 218.
Right.
So
I
I still have plenty. Yeah, I was still have plenty of room to grow, for sure. But after Toronto, my metabolism went nuts, and I couldn't even eat. I couldn't eat enough to hold my weight on.
Huh.
I was eating my base, like, so I'm with AJ Sims now, and my base days, he has base days, high days, death days is what he calls them. But my base days were like 4,000 calories. My high days were 8,000 calories, and I was getting a high day like every other day.
Wow.
Right.
Leading into Orlando after
That's the
Toronto.
best. That's the
I was
best.
and I would drop weight every time I did 8,000 calories. I was just burning through everything. Like, he was taking fat burners out.
Yeah.
We were barely doing any cardio. It was like, all right, just walk the dog for cardio today. And
Yeah.
I couldn't hold. I ended up at about 215 in Orlando.
Were you leaner there? Were you like harder looking
Yeah,
there?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I was
Did you-
definitely better condition.
And did you feel better at that show, considering that you had the opportunity? You're off the fat burners. You're doing very little cardio. Food's higher. Do you feel like your stress level was lower as a result of all that?
Partially, yes, but partially, like, Toronto, I had zero expectations coming in as the open class. And then I ended up in 6th place, and then people were like putting me in their predictions for like the top 3, top 4 and stuff for Orlando, and I was like, oh man. But I mean, it was exciting, but I think that kind of got to me a little bit. But then
Sure.
something I haven't talked about at all actually was I mentioned it shortly on my YouTube channel, but about a week out from Orlando, I never touched insulin before or anything like that, and my body was just burning through everything so fast that I started going hypo in the middle of the day. And there was 2 days in a row where one was on a rest day, so I didn't miss my workout, but I fell asleep at like 8 o'clock. I missed my last 2 meals, woke up at 4 in the morning. And the next day, I got up to make my pre-workout meal. I went to the bathroom first. Next thing I know, my training partner's waking me up at 10 p.m. He came into my house because my wife's calling him, freaking out. She was out of town. And I went back there to go to the bathroom before making my pre-workout meal, sat on the bed. Next thing I know, he's waking me up at 10 p.m.
Wow.
Missed 3 meals, missed my workout. And so we started checking my blood glucose levels every meal every hour after every meal after that, making sure everything was stable. We actually did bring a little bit of insulin in just to try and control everything. But I had never touched insulin before that, and I had never had any issues like that. And I was burning through everything so fast that I started going hypo, and like it was scary, honestly.
Once you started testing your blood sugar, what was the lowest reading that you saw?
It never got crazy low after that. I think like an hour after a pretty high carb meal, though, it was like, I mean, in the mid 70s.
Right back ready for more at that point.
Yeah, an hour after like 200 carbs.
Yeah.
Like,
what do you think that is? Like, what do you think is like, obviously you're burning through it, but what do you think is going on? Just hyper revved metabolic rate?
That's the only thing I could think of. I don't know. That's why, like, he wanted me to start checking it every meal, just because I was like, we wanted to figure out what was going on. But
yeah,
we ended up, everything kind of leveled out after a few days, and my blood sugars were sticking around like the 100 area, an hour, 2 hours after the meals, and then when we carbed up hard. I've never eaten this much food in my life, like leading into a show. It was insane.
Like how many grams?
So, I don't know exactly,
like
but I know
1,000.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oof. Yeah, for multiple days in a row. We started carbing up on Wednesday, or Tuesday, I think. And I think the first couple days we probably had 500-600 grams of carbs. Then we did a 1,000-gram carb day, and then probably another like 600 or 700 grams of carbs a day. And then the day before the show, it was like another 1,000.
Dang. And you could still like pull everything in. It didn't affect you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I've never eaten and I'm talking majority of it's cream of rice cakes. But then it would be like, all right, this meal you're going to have 2 like giant muffins and 2 apple fritters, and like go get a quick pump, you know?
Yeah.
Apple fritter. Nice choice.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
People were calling me the Muffin Man on Instagram and stuff. On my YouTube channel, everything. Everyone's like calling me the Muffin Man because I was eating like 3 giant, like, I don't know if you have Wawa where you're at, but it's a gas station. But the muffins are like
the gas station muffins.
They're like 700 calories each.
Yeah,
and I was getting like 3
like
of them.
A gram of sodium in each one.
It's like 40 fat, 80 carbs in each muffin.
I remember one time, I believe it was 2010. It was at the North Americans, and we'd pulled water. I got off the plane, and Aceto pulled water on me pretty hard. And then next morning, he came and looked at me, and he goes, "You're a bit flat. I'll be back in an hour." And he came back an hour later with a bag of donuts, and he's like, "I want you to eat one every 20 minutes. I'll be back in an hour." So I ate 3 of these giant apple fritters. He gave me these giant apple fritter things, cinnamon roll type of things. I put 3 of those down, and he came back like an hour and 20 minutes later, and he's like,
nice.
I love it.
It's funny.
You mentioned pulling water. That was another thing that was completely different. Like, I'm used to Aceto's protocol, and he would pull water really hard. Right. But with AJ, this was my first year ever working with AJ, and we used like a quarter of a diazide the whole time. And it was like, but we drank so much vodka. Oh my God. I haven't drank it since my wedding almost 6 years ago.
Oh God.
And he's like, "I want you to make sure you have some vodka and some red wine just in case we need it." Well, I think we went through a pint of vodka the day before the show. It was like
I'd have been in the bag.
Yeah, it was like 3 ounces of vodka and 2 ounces of coffee is your fluids with this meal, and then 4 ounces
Kevin
of
LeBron
vodka
hit.
Yeah, and I'm like, my wife's like recording me, waiting for me to start dancing in the hotel room or something.
Right?
That's a lot.
It was wild.
I've seen the resurgence of alcohol in the pre-show protocol. Like, I remember back, like, a long time ago when people would have some red wine backstage or a little bit of that. I used to see that back in the 90s, and then it, completely vanished. And I even remember one year where I was at a show and like they had a rule, no alcohol backstage, because what had started happening was the bikini girls had come, the bikini division had arrived, and bikini competitors were drinking backstage, and it was becoming a party, and it had happened several years in a row. And of course, stuff happens, people fall down, and they actually made a rule. Oh, sorry. No drinking backstage. Yeah. It was funny. And now, like, I know several guys that have been using vodka. There's several guys.
Ian was taking vodka shots backstage at Toronto. Yeah.
It's very, very, like, we're back to Arnold stuff mix. We got the old school Arnold shit now. I'm really fusing with the new, like, microgram carb up spreadsheet stuff.
I'll tell you though, I probably felt the best I'd ever felt going out there. It was like you take all those diuretics and pull water so hard, your joints hurt. Like walking up those steps in Toronto would have been brutal. Just like walking up and down to like where the show was.
Just a bit drunk, easy.
Yeah.
Even when he fell down, it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah. Easy. That's how would you say, because you've done the Olympia in Classic and 212. So I wanted to ask you, what are the differences in the experience of doing the Olympia in two different divisions? Like, how did, the experience of doing Classic, experience of doing 212, what was there anything that stood out?
I feel like it would, to me at least, it felt a little more serious in 212. And that could have just been my personal experience, but I was just having fun in Classic, and I was excited to be there. And, I felt like there was so many guys. I think that was the issue. In Classic Physique, there's so many competitors that, like, I was just kind of having fun back there because I was like, man, honestly, I was like, they're not even going to notice me when I walk out there. There's like 48 guys in my class,
Right.
And then 212, I was like, yeah. But like 212, I was like, you know what? I think I have a chance of being in the top 10 here. And I ended up one spot away. But,
right.
And me and Guy have talked about that. we were like, both of us should have been higher. That was bullshit. It's like, yeah, I felt like 212 was really like more like competitive, like experience for me.
Right.
Classic. It was my first Olympia. I was just happy to be there and just having a good time,
Well, the 48 guys in the class is also a little bit. Impactful experience your first time out, I can see. How old were you that first year? How old were you at the Classic Olympia?
Oh, I'm older than most people think. So, what was that? 2019? How old am I now? I don't know, 32? I'm 36 right now.
Yeah. Okay.
You're not old enough to forget how old you are, though. You got 10 years. You got 10 years.
I've been drinking a lot this year, so the alcohol is.
Yeah.
I got that out of my system between 18 and 24, and so those years, I forget those years happened.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, because this is a topic that I cannot let you escape without covering. What were the changes that you had to make to move up classes? And I understand genetics and everything else, but this is something we cover a ton on these podcasts, and I like people to know the truth, because I know the answer is you take 5 grams of test now and all those things. So if you could really break that down, because I think that that's an issue that we bang our head against the wall, and I'd like to have somebody with an example that just moved up. So
honest truth is, I turned pro, I had never touched any anabolics. I'm not going to say I was natural, because that'll get all kinds of crap. But like I had done like some SARMs and like some Clen to get my pro card. And the whole time I was in classic physique, like I went and got my blood work done for the first time ever after doing my first 2 pro shows and coming off, like kind of being done with that season. And from dieting for a year and a half straight and everything, and show after show after show, my test levels were like 227. So the doctor prescribed me 200 milligrams a week of tests, and the whole time I was in classic, we never used more than that. It was 200 milligrams of test a week, and then aceto threw in like maybe 150 master on 150 Tren, and then some like Winstraw at the end or something.
Right.
And when we moved up to
like a bikini stack.
That's what
no, they use more Tren actually, but go ahead.
Yeah. That's what people were saying pretty much. When we moved up to 212, the only thing that went up was the test went to 400. Everything else stayed pretty low, stayed pretty much the same. And no, go ahead.
No, just a perfect example of what some people don't understand. Like there's levels to there's levels of talent in this game.
Jose used to make fun of me all the time for the baby amounts I was taking.
Yeah. So you're like competitive organ age is like 12.
Right.
So, I didn't
Your liver still has new car smell.
Yeah. I was almost 31. I was almost 31 when I first started doing anything. So, but yeah, and then moving up to open, this was a little bit different, you know. Also with a new coach, Aceto is pretty mild with everything he does.
Very.
So I knew switching to AJ was going to be a little bit different. But yeah, it was definitely still never got close to a gram of test, but we did get up to like 750, and everything else was a little higher, but nothing crazy. And
what about the training side and the eating side to put on that amount of size?
Yeah, did your training mentality change when you went from 212 to open, or you just keep doing what you're doing?
That was the most annoying part about staying in classic, is because I had to hold myself back.
I bet,
because I needed areas to improve, but I couldn't put on any muscle to make weight. So that's my favorite thing. I mean, I'm sure like a lot of y'all are the same. I got into this because I love to train hard, not because I love to diet. I don't love to diet, but I love training hard. I love going in there and pushing myself a little bit harder each time, seeing if I can, beat my best each time I go in there. Whether it's in reps, whether it's intensity, whether it's in weight, whatever. I just like to push myself past my limits. And so the training was always intense and hard and everything, but the food, my appetite's always been crazy. So I've never really had trouble getting the food in. So like even in classic, I think my weight limit was 192. My heaviest off season weight was like 250. But I'm not saying it was a pretty 250, but I think the heaviest I got this past off season, I decided I was going to keep it cleaner and stay a little bit tighter, so I didn't have to lose 50 pounds.
Yeah,
and I was high 250s, 260 this past off season before we started dieting, and we were in pretty good shape around 230, but we knew we needed to bring it like really dialed in because I wasn't going to be the big guy on stage.
Damn. So what when you look at the lineup, when you looked at the Toronto Pro lineup, where did you finish again in TO? You were like 7th or something, weren't you?
Sixth.
Yeah, you did really good. Like they pulled you right up there with the front group, and
it's the only thing that aggravated me about both shows is they pulled 6 people out in first call-outs in Orlando and Toronto, and I wasn't part of it. But then I placed 6th at both shows, and I'm like, I should have been in the first call-outs because they always post that picture of first call-outs, and I'm never in it. But then I beat one of the guys that's there.
Yeah,
right. and you didn't get to stand next to the 5th place guy, which you might have taken him out too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no,
that used to
We did get to actually battle that out because Joe Seaman got fifth, and we were right next to each other in one of the call outs, and he's just got so much size. He was in shape.
Yeah. Huge and ripped does count.
Yeah. I might have had a little nicer shape, but he had so much muscle and he was peeled.
Yeah. Where do you see your physique, in a year's time with all the work you're putting in? When you look at that lineup, you're analyzing the pictures. Obviously, you got something they like.
Well, that was the nice thing. I talked to Tyler Mannion after the show, and I just to get his opinion on whether I made the right decision to move from 212 to open. And he's like, "Look, you're an open bodybuilder. You fit in. You got top 6." He's like, "Obviously, you fit in up there." He's like, "You just need a little more size overall to compete with these big guys." And I 100% agree. I knew I wasn't gonna be the biggest guy up there, but I wanted to see where I was, and I feel like if I was 218 there, I feel like if I can come in around 230, I could win a pro show.
Right. So that number's kind of in your head for like reasonable, pro show winning goal.
I don't think with my height and my structure and the lines that I bring, I don't need to be a 250, 245, 250 pound guy, but I definitely need a little more size still.
Well, 12 pounds on you is a ton. I mean, that would be very, very noticeable, especially sliced. I love when people point that out because, again, with guys coming up, and I know I was guilty of this all the time, your assumption every time you see a guy on stage is that mom's home. Is that he got drastically heavier. But if he's just a little heavier and harder, he just looks way bigger.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think I can make pretty good progress this year. For one, actually working with I've never worked with a coach in the off season. I don't know how Chris Aceto was with either of y'all, but with me, it was like I'd send him pictures once a month. He's like, "You're not fat yet. Keep eating." So that was pretty much our off season together. But AJ's very attentive to all the details and everything like that, digestion, gut health, and all that. So I'm excited to see how this goes. And then also for the first time ever implementing a little bit of growth hormone. We've never done that. I've never done that. And then if I look back at the previous show I did to Toronto, I was 205, and then I was 218 in Toronto. So
huge jump.
Yeah, I mean, if we can make another jump like that, that'd be incredible. Even half of that would be great.
Where's your main like love for bodybuilding come? Like I want to know why you want to, why do you want to do this? I've my origin story is like a long time ago, but I know you got the Dragon Ball name on Instagram. I don't know if you're like we're a superhero kid or what.
That's literally exactly where my mind went as soon as you asked that question. I was basically just watching like Dragon Ball Z growing up and stuff like that, and the anime, and just always the main protagonist, the main character, whatever, just always pushing themselves to reach that next level, to be a little bit better, a little stronger, a little more powerful, a little bigger, whatever. And it's just kind of the same mentality, like, or video games too. Like, I basically think of myself as like the character in a role-playing game where I'm getting in the gym, I'm battling, I'm gaining experience, I'm leveling up, and then I get to the show and I fight the boss. And then if I lose, I go back, I train, I level up again, I try and fight the boss again at the next show.
Get more armor points, more magic points.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Dusty always says he sees life as a scoreboard, and with everything he does, and I totally get your video game reference to like slowly building up all your reserves and like, I got to work on my financial points a little bit so that I can get my armor up a little bit. Also talk, Dusty, we talk a lot about how bodybuilding, like you got to be able to afford to do this, and I think that's something that all like hardcore guys have, is there's some sort of like requirement for leveling up. And some sort of like symbolic representation of leveling up constantly. What do you think about that?
I think that's exactly right. I think, everyone has their own, I guess, thought process on it, and like they're like whatever they put towards that. But for me, yeah, that's how it is. It's like I just think about it like the video games or something like that, where I'm experience, leveling up, fight the boss, and you're right with the financial thing too. Like that's the hardest part right there, man. That's not the fun part. That's geez, the training in the gym and getting that experience and leveling up. That's the fun part. But you got to have the financial stuff to be able to do all that.
What kind of training do you do? Like, what if you were to describe your style? I know you said it sounds like you are progressive because you said try to get in the gym and do a little bit more than you did before. What would you attribute your gains to training wise?
So I would mix them. So I'll always have at least one exercise where it's a progressive overload.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then I might go high volume. So hack squat. That's going to be a progressive overload. I want to get a little stronger or a little more reps or even just a slower tempo, whatever it is, a little better at it each week.
Yeah.
So then I'll go to logbook mindset with that exercise.
Yeah. I don't write it down, but that kind of mentality. And then after that, I might go to leg press and do sets of 20, 25 or with a 3 second negative or something, a little higher volume, time under tension type stuff, and then usually end with a rest pause set or a drop set or something like that. And then, move on to a more, I don't know, a Bulgarian split squat or something like that, and then some isolation exercises to finish it off.
Okay.
But yeah, there's always like chest is today. I'm going to go in there. I'll probably get a little warm up on the pec deck just to get the things moving. And then my progressive overload will be flat dumbbell press, where I'm going to try and get stronger, better at. And then I'll move on to an incline press machine.
Yep.
And I'll end up doing a drop set on that probably. And then some cable flies. Nothing crazy. It's just there's always one thing I'm trying to get better at, and then everything else is probably more isolation or volume.
I like that kind of training. That's made a lot of sense to me personally, especially in the past couple of years. So when you do that progressive exercise, I always say like that's my heavy meat and potatoes exercise. Be like incline dumbbell press for me, or like a dumbbell row, a barbell row, and when I'm training back, those are going to be like my heavy movements. How many sets do you do for that exercise?
Typically one top set, one back off set.
Right on. Right on.
I'll fit. Depending on the exercise, I want my top set to be hit failure somewhere between 7 and 10.
Okay.
And then my back off set might be 12 to 15.
Okay.
Hit failure somewhere in there.
And then you could probably start moving a little faster through the rest of the workout. You don't have to take as much time. How do you know when you need a break? That's a question we get all the time. Like, hey, how do I know I need a deload or a rest week or whatever?
I never know.
Yeah.
I can tell my clients when they need to. But
that's also another thing with the real hardcore guys is like, break.
What's that?
I'll tell myself, all right, I'm going to go in there today and everything's going to be, I'm still going to go towards failure, but it's going to be like 15 to 20 reps on everything.
Yeah.
And then I'll get like halfway into the like meat and potatoes exercise. And I'm like, well, that felt pretty good. I could put another plate on there.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, that felt pretty good. I could put another plate. So, and then I end up, there's no deload.
Yeah. It sounds familiar. I think to all of us, judging by your guys' looks on their faces too.
I've heard Dusty say before, to take a deload, you pretty much just got to take a week off, because otherwise you go in there and you're going to push. Yeah.
You're on mute still, Dusty.
The best quote for that was Evan when he was working with Chris. Chris said, "Hey, I need you to go in today and train at like 70% or whatever." And Evan was like, "I don't know what that means." and he was being literal. And Chris goes, "Good point. Okay, I want you to use 70% of the working sets." And he goes, "Okay, I can do that." So he still went 100%. He just had to do less of it. It was the only way, when that's how your brain functions, to do it.
Yeah.
So anytime I did the deloads, I'm like, I just won't go to the gym this week. Cool.
Yeah.
Because if not, like you said, you get in there and you're being smart, but you're like, I feel pretty good today. Next thing you know, it's like, it's a PR, like you're a powerlifter. You're like, nicely done. Don't tell my clients about this.
Yeah. My first week after Orlando, I was like, all right, I'm not going to do deadlifts for a couple weeks just because I love doing deadlifts. I'm not like the best at it or whatever, but it's just a fun exercise you could push yourself on. And I know it's not the best thing for bodybuilding. RDLs would probably be better for my hamstrings and glutes, but it's just fun. So I was going to take a couple weeks off from doing them before I got back into it. And then my training partner, I go in for hamstrings on Friday, the week after the show. He's never wanted to do deadlifts before. Ever. He hates them. And he's like, we're doing deadlifts today? I was like, you hate deadlifts. We never do deadlifts. And I was like, usually when I do deadlifts, you go do RDLs. And he's like, yeah, but I think I need them for that posterior chain thickness. I'm going to start adding them back in. I'm like, yes, we're doing deadlifts.
Yeah, today's the day.
I didn't go crazy, but I still ended up at like 5 plates for a set of 12. I'm like,
right.
I shouldn't have done that.
The week after the show.
Good.
What's something you've had to work hard to bring up body part wise? Like you mentioned, there was a few things. Quads. Okay.
Yeah. That was the hardest thing. My upper body, like my chest, shoulders, my arms, like I didn't train arms or shoulders for 2 years just because they just kept growing and everything else needed to catch up. But legs, I have to absolutely destroy and then feed like crazy because it took forever. Like my hamstrings were really dominant. And so now I put so much emphasis on my quads. I feel like my quads are more dominant than my hamstrings. And now I gotta start evening things out again. Like from the side, my hamstrings drop really well. From the back, they look kind of thin. So I gotta start evening that out.
Bringing up a body part, like this training stuff with you is really great because you've made these large changes and added this like pure mass to your body, so it's very relevant. So when it comes to, getting your quads bigger, because you did drastically, was it just a mentality of training harder, or were you also like really being analytical about like technique and foot position? Did you take that to the next level? Was there more strategy and like, I usually leg press with a few different positions, but I'm going to really focus with my feet here for leg presses. Like, what sort of stuff were you doing on top of that?
So moving from classic to 212, I knew I needed to bring my legs up, and that's where I kind of implemented more of the progressive overload with the hack squats, and then
we're back to hack squats, Dusty.
Hack squats and deadlifts. You think I love
heavy
this?
I thought we were good. I thought there was some magic answer. Was waiting for some. Right, starts right back to progressive overload on the hack squat. Here we go.
But then it was interesting. Right after my last show last year is when I started, like, I've known AJ for a long time, but he was living in Orlando at the time, so it was only an hour drive. And he'd hit me up. He'd like, hey, it's leg day on Thursday. You coming over? And I'm like, he had a whole gym set up in his garage called The Dump. And we'd go over there, Florida, in the summer, in his garage. And he'd had one fan, and he would point it facing out of the garage to blow the hot air out, but not blowing on you. I hadn't puked in a long time. He had me puking. Like, I was rolling on his driveway, just like, done.
Oh, yeah.
But the techniques that he actually implemented, like, he's trained with Jay Cutler when he was younger. He's worked with Aceto. He's worked with a lot of people. He's learned from a ton of different people. So some of the techniques that he implemented, like, were really effective, like reverse banding a Smith machine squat. Mm-hmm. So you can really overload the top half of the portion. Doing a rest pause set on the leg press, and then right when you're finished, when you have nothing left, putting your feet flat together at as low as you can possibly go, and not unracking it, just hitting those top like 2 inches. And I'm like, if I walked in and saw someone doing this, I'd think they were an idiot. Like, they don't know how to train.
Yeah.
But then I did it, and I couldn't walk afterwards. So I was like, it was the most painful. Like,
essentially, really targeted partial reps to finish
Yeah.
the set, and you leave the stoppers up just so you're fucking not a safety hazard to everyone around you. Yeah.
It was brutal. It was brutal. And then then you go to a hack squat after that, or a belt squat, and then he would have me on after I can't walk and I'm rolling on the driveway ready to puke. He's like, all right, come on, we're finishing with leg extensions, where he's like, doing the Tom Platz type stuff where he's pushing, fight me, pushing down on it, and then partials, and then all right, at the bottom, now I'm going to help you up, and just beyond failure. So yeah, that was, and then I brought my training partner over there with me a couple times, and we started doing that to each other because I wanted him to learn as well, so we could train like that together.
Yeah,
and
that's
here
cool.
We are, we're back to just hard ass, brutal. think of really hard shit and do it over and over.
It was funny one time when I went over there to train with him, and he's got me on his TV in the garage training with Tom Platz, and I was like, oh, it's going to be like that. Because I went out to LA one time and trained with Tom Platz. We did 2 exercises, and
No kidding.
We did squats and leg extensions, and that was it. And
how long did it take you to? Yeah, how long did it take you to get up to that heavy squat or your actual working sets?
We started pretty light because I was only a week or 2 post Arnold Classic, so I was pretty weak at the time, anyways. But he corrected my form a lot too, and then he's like, "You got to get some squat shoes," and then he put some 5-pound plates under my heels and stuff like that, just to make sure everything was in line. And then, man, all the videos that you see of him are no exaggeration. Oh, I'm sure you guys know, but no exaggeration. I'm, all right, give me 5 reps. All right, rack it. Give me 5 reps, rack it, adding some weight. I think we got it to 365 maybe. Which 2 weeks after the Arnold, I was happy with 365. But it was like, all right, I only want you to count to 5. That's it. Just count to 5. That's all you have to do. I was like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 more! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 more! Well, I don't remember. I think I got to maybe 18 or 19 reps and just couldn't move. Racked it. I think we dropped down to 275, and then we did that again.
Right.
5 more, 5 more, 5. And I didn't know how many reps I was doing. I was doing what he told me to do. I just counted to 5. So I had no idea where I was at. And then we went to the leg extensions after that, and it was same thing. It's just he's in my face screaming 5 more, and then pushing down on the thing, screaming at me, fight me, just it was brutal.
That's wild.
Awesome experience though.
The full YouTube Tom Platz experience.
Yeah.
It was awesome though. I mean, great experience.
I've known a bunch of people that have trained with him. It's all the same story. Just destroyed them on a squat and then destroyed them on an extension.
Yeah.
So that's I just keep thinking of all this stuff that we hear now, all the questions that we're getting about, training too hard, the reps in reserve jokes that we make, this sort of stuff. And it comes back to pushing down on the leg extension. Fight me, stop it, stop the bar, that sort of shit. We just did that the other day. I'm all happy about this. And this is the stuff that I want our listeners to hear, a guy who's actually done the division leaving,
particularly when you had a weak point that you needed to bring up.
Yeah.
Because I think that is where
your quads are big,
the internet world is now okay, now make sure your right pinky toe is twisted at this degree and move through 3 inches of range of motion and leave 5 reps in reserve. And you're what we did was tried to kill me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tried to kill him, and then he tried to kill me.
Yeah.
When I have a client that has a weak, say their quads are weak or whatever, and they're asking, well, do my feet need to be close together? Do they need to be wide apart? Do I need to turn them? I was like, where are you the strongest?
Yep.
That's where they need to be, because you can lift the most amount of weight and you're going to get the most out of it.
Yeah.
So
that was Dorian. That was how Dorian described it. Find a powerful position where you're strong and solid and drive from there. That's all he ever said.
Once you have the size, then we can worry about tweaking little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, you got to put 3 inches on your quads first, and we'll see how they look.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know? Man. What about the advice to people? You know, I just had a conversation about this at breakfast about the mentality of being a pro and getting a pro card versus having a pro physique.
Man, that's a good one. Because everybody just, so many clients I get recently, that's all they say is, because I have a questionnaire I send out to them. And one of the questions is, what are your fitness goals? Because some of them are just lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And 90% of the competitors be like, I want to be an IFBB professional and step on the Olympia stage. And I'm like, all right, I mean, you might get there, but how about we work on, building your physique first? And like, there's so many of them that they haven't even trained for 6 months and they think they're going to be a professional bodybuilder. I'm like, you don't even know what your body can do yet. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I definitely think training for the look first and to build the physique before you even think about trying to turn pro,
What do you think are the main mental requirements that a competitor needs to be honest with themselves about to actually be a good bodybuilder?
Oh man, I don't know. I guess the first thing that came to my mind was just how willing you are to do what it takes. Mm-hmm. Like not making excuses. There's so many people that, well, I couldn't do my cardio today because of this. And I'm like, you could have found a time to walk on the treadmill for a few minutes or something. I couldn't get my steps in because of this. I missed this meal because of this. I'm like, if you really want this, you'll find a way to get it done. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing is just making sure you're going to find a way to check every box.
Yeah. I think bodybuilding is for people I think bodybuilding is best done by the people who are able to self-motivate themselves to attack the task and find a way and, see everything as part of the full job. Like my job of creating this physique requires that I don't miss any of this other stuff.
Yes. Well, and realize dedication over motivation. Like you're not going to feel motivated every day. So some days it takes everything I have to go to the gym. I don't want to go, but once I'm there, I'm glad I'm there. I get an amazing workout half the time I didn't feel like going because I had the dedication to go, even though I didn't feel like it.
Yeah. What's your number one driver as a pro bodybuilder? The number one reason that
to honestly just to push myself to be the best version of myself, like push myself beyond what my current limits are. I just like to see myself. I mean, obviously I want to win when I get on stage, but it's more about just making myself progress and be better every time.
I love that answer because I feel like and I know since you deal with clients, you have the same situation where the first thing they want to know is if they have what it takes to be great. Can they win the Olympia? Can they do this, do that? And I find with guys, doesn't matter what level they're at, when their focus is improvement, it's not until you're kind of done. Like, I mean, I literally had this moment today. I was telling Nikki, like, I look back, I'm like, the odds of getting where I am were ridiculous, but I never thought about them. It was just every day doing what had to be done to be a little better. And then one day you wake up and go, oh, this is where it put me, versus sitting out with a map on a plan that anyone would have called ridiculous anyways, and chasing it down. I mean, I don't think had you told somebody when you were getting into classic, I'm probably going to move up to the open and be a top threat in a couple of years. I don't think you'd be like, that's a great idea.
It never crossed my mind, honestly. It never even crossed my mind that I would be on the Olympia stage one day in any division.
No kidding.
Like that was never a goal of mine. It was never a thought process. The thought was just continue getting better until I could, impress people on stage and impress myself. And then I ended up winning a show, and I'm like, oh, cool. All right, let's do this. I ended up I think it was the first pro show I won. I got third place in Tampa, and the goal was to win that so I could go to the Olympia that year in 2018. And it was the last chance to qualify. I think Keon got second, and then Canadian guy up near you, Ron, I think Henri Pierre.
Oh, yeah.
He won that show. And he did not make weight, by the way. I watched him weigh in. He cheated. He was like 10 pounds overweight. I watched the whole thing.
Oh, God.
I watched the whole thing. He was on his tippy toes when they measured his height.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was such BS. But anyways, a week later was the San Antonio Pro, and it was the first qualifier for the next year. So I just went straight to San Antonio, and I won that show. But before getting third place at that, against Keon and Henri Pierre, it never really crossed my mind. I was like, oh shoot, I might actually win a show here. I was like, I can come in a little sharper in a week, and I could take this. So, and that's what they told me on stage after I won the show. They're like, it was your confidence with your posing that won the show for you. It was a 1-point decision. And I was like, well, I think the show before that is what built that confidence.
For sure.
Right.
But
your losses become your wins.
Yeah. Before that, I never really crossed my mind that I was going to go to the Olympia and, or ever move up to a bigger division. I actually, my first NPC show was 2015, and that was the year before Classic came out. And so I was doing light heavyweight bodybuilding at 180 pounds. I don't know why I didn't just drop down a weight class, but I didn't know any better. I was coaching myself. I coached myself all the way up to my first Arnold Classic with Aceto. That was the first time I ever had a coach. So I was just I was like, if I can't win the overall, what's the point? I might as well come in at whatever weight class I will come in at.
Right.
So
I love that. That's a great attitude at those level shows, because I've seen guys push their way down and not be their lighter version couldn't have beaten their heavier version one-on-one. So you've actually hurt your chances of, if you're there to win the whole show, you've hurt yourself.
Yeah. So, I mean, I came in now. I won the overall at that first NPC show, and then I went straight to the universe thinking, oh, I got this. Yeah, and that was a rude awakening real fast. I think I got 9th place there. I came in 183 pounds or something in the light heavyweights at the universe, and just got destroyed. But that one I could have probably dropped down a weight class.
I think that's the magic there, though. Is I think a lot of guys, even watching, don't realize the jumps. Oh
yeah.
From even a smaller local show to a bigger regional show. You'll see guys just jump into having no clue. And I'm sure you've had these experiences where you're backstage at a pro qualifier and you see the guys with their eyes really big that realize they made a really bad decision rolling in on this show, But I think it can turn into a victory for you as well. I mean, you went there and got 9th, and it wasn't like a wake-up call of I should stop. It was, I can improve.
It was, but it was also a couple months after that they announced the Classic Physique division, and I was like, I could do that. I don't have to push size. I can kind of just stay more athletic and healthy and stuff like that. And then when I did the Classic division, once I did turn pro, and then the doctor put me on TRT, because I had been so low for so long, I started TRT. I just started growing again, and now I can't make weight. So I was just watching actually this morning the episode with y'all and the other podcast you do.
Drugs and Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dusty was just on that. Yeah.
And Dusty, you were talking about or I don't remember. It was all of you were talking about how low of dose you actually need to make improvements. I think, Scott, you were actually saying it. I was like, when I went on TRT, like that's all I needed for the whole time I was in Classic.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't need to be going crazy and do like a full on cycle right away. I started growing right off of that.
Which is nuts, because I'm thinking back, like even when you were competing at light heavy, I mean, there are guys that are using more gear at that show to be in light heavyweight than you have used at like Olympia level. You know, or like what you're using now, which
I know you guys talk about it all the time, but some of the clients come to me, the cycles that they're running before they come to me, and I'm just like, oh my God.
And I wish people could get it. You know, and Dusty, you had said a good thing. You were like, you know, you're like somebody else, like Jordan will go out and he'll be honest and say what he's using, which is really high doses at times. But then that makes people think that people who are saying they use low doses must be lying. And even that show, Dusty, that we just put out, that episode of Drugs and Stuff, you talked about your dosing, and there's a guy on there, he's like, I wish these guys would tell us what it really took to grow. It's like, this is it. So the question to me then, the hard truth is, it comes down to like, maybe I'm not cut out for the Olympia stage. I can't do what Jason's done. I could try like heck to keep up with him, but if I have to do that at the light heavy, to keep up with him in light heavyweights at the state show, how am I ever going to get to the Olympia with him, you know?
Right. Yeah.
That's
It's
just a reality. That's a really tough conversation to have with a lot of people, because they're so invested in being a great bodybuilder. And you just think, man, like what you're doing to be, you know, a decent light heavyweight at the, you know, regional level is not sustainable. Like you're not going to be able to do these crazy stacks and just get better and better and better all the way to your pro card and all that stuff. Like, what's going to be going on by the time you get to the pro level? I mean, we've all seen it, right? I mean, seen some crazy shit. And you know, goes back to my point where I say, like, it's important for people to understand what they're going up against. They're going up against guys that turn pro naturally, guys that are doing their first Olympia on 200 mgs a test, like just bizarro alternate reality.
Well, that's the ugly truth, right? Like, do you guys remember when? Do you remember when Kai Green won the Best Poser Award at that Keystone Classic? And interviewing him, Sean Ray goes, "I would reinvest this money into bodybuilding." And obviously, he meant you should do your first cycle. Yeah. And then you fast forward like 6 months, and Kai shows up at a show 40 pounds heavier.
There you go.
And it's like,
people forget
he was
that.
Probably
people forget
natural.
what happened.
He was probably natural when he did. I mean, he didn't look. It was totally believable that he was natural at that show to me. And then he shows up 40 pounds heavier, and he's like, okay, now I'm here to win Arnold Classics. Yeah. You know what I mean? And guys who are running 2 grams to try to win their class at the South Carolina Open are like, well, I just need more drugs to beat Kai. It's frightening, you know?
Yeah. That's nuts.
Yeah. But all we can do is educate. All we can do is educate people, hopefully listen. People, maybe they have to hear it multiple times. Maybe they won't get it, but we're putting the message out there. So
you know what helps is when you have a guy that you argue with in your head. And I've told you about this, Ron, before, but I had Jay come out to my stores one time, and he was at the store, and he's like, yeah, I've been clean for like months. And he was like 285. And I'm thinking to myself, you are so full of shit. And he goes, yeah, no, I'm starting my Olympia prep actually tomorrow when I go home. It was a Sunday. And I was like, oh, okay. And he left. Nice guy, whatever. And then I saw him 3 weeks later at the USA's. He was so massive. I walked over and I go, what do you weigh today? He goes, 315. He went from 285 to 315 in 3 weeks. So and I was like, he was off.
That makes sense now. Yeah.
I completely believe that because I've experienced that. I've done that. Like, I've been off everything totally for 14 weeks and 25 pounds in like 3 weeks, 25, close to 30, just cell volume, just, you know, the creatine went all the right places. And, plus you jack your food. So there's 5 more pounds of like intestinal weight just on you at all times. You're just, oh, holy fuck. You know?
That's what I'm excited for, because I came off everything after the Orlando, so I'm like kind of doing the whole baby making protocol right now.
Oh, no kidding.
So,
Nice. Trying to get one past the goalie, as we say in Canada.
Yeah. She's ready, and I'm 36.
Yeah.
It's time. So,
and then when she goes off the pill, it's called pulling the goalie. Yeah.
So I'm ready. Like, I mean, I'm already up. I was 240 this morning, and I'm still striated quads, and my abs are still there. Everything. So I'm holding a little bit of back fat already, but and definitely holding some water. But everything's still there at 240, and being off everything. Like, if we can kind of slow it down now, maintain this for a little while, not get too out of shape, and then whenever we can start blasting again, have a good response.
Well, just make sure that you keep track of how long it takes, so you can let the kid know when they're old enough how long Daddy stayed clean for that.
Yeah. You know what I did for you?
You ruined so many gains.
Summer in Daytona Beach, and I stayed off the gear. That's prime time to use some Tren too. Summer in Daytona Beach. Just imagine.
Yeah.
The safety of your morning walks is actually less now. You're off all that.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that Chris Bumstead went on the Chris Willix podcast? I don't know if you guys are familiar with Chris Willix.
I heard about it, but I didn't watch it.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Chris Willix. He's a great guy. I watch his show a lot. But he had CBum on, and there's a clip that they're putting out. Everyone does the promotional reels for their podcast, right? And that's one of Bumstead talking about Tren. He asked him about Tren. He said,
"No kidding."
He goes, what's the most toxic drug in bodybuilding? Is there anything that you won't take? And Chris said, Tren.
Huh. He
said, I used it in the past. I won't use it anymore. People don't quite, get what they're getting into. A lot of guys abuse it. What are your thoughts on like that level of, we've talked about it before, the trend in mainstream culture, but now you got Bumstead going on the Willix podcast. It gets like millions of views of like regular people, right?
Yeah.
And he's talking about that sort of stuff. So like, I don't know, that's fascinating to us that, the mainstream is having these discussions.
Yeah.
I think it's getting more and more mainstream, more and more popular just around the normal people talking about this stuff. You get the random kid that walks up to you in the gym and asks about it. Now I'm like, dude, I don't know you. And that's the first thing you ask me about?
Right.
Like I would never imagine walking up to some bodybuilder or even some big guy that I don't know if he competes or not and just ask him about drugs. Like, that's crazy to me. But yeah. I think it's getting more and more popular, and it's because of those podcasts and people going out there and everybody watching them and stuff like that and just hearing people talk about it. So, I mean, at least it sounds like he said something responsible about it, maybe at least.
Yeah. I'm wondering what percentage of people are going to just say, he's lying.
Yeah, probably.
He's on a
You don't know Chris then.
Yeah. I think that it's I definitely think Tren's overused in the mainstream for sure. I mean, you see guys at LA Fitness or, whatever Good Life y'all have up there or whatever, and like they don't look like anything, but they're on freaking more than the bodybuilders are just so they can look halfway decent at the beach or at the pool party. And I'm like, they're not eating right. They're using it to cover up all the junk that they're eating and all the fact that they don't actually train hard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's kind of funny. It's like, in a way, there's a certain group of lifter that has found a way to actually turn PEDs into like recreational drugs.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Because they're all designed around how they look while they're having fun. Right? So, like the guys that do cycles so they can go to raves, and the guys that stay in shape for the boat parties, and the guys that do, in a way, they're turning the gear into like a recreational assister.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
It's like the crossover we were all waiting for.
I could have seen myself doing that back in my party days if I had been on stuff back then, because I was the guy that would go and to work out just so I looked good at the club that night.
Yeah,
You were that guy back in the day, huh?
Oh yeah, I was that douchebag.
That's funny.
Oh man. So what's your plan for the rest of the year? Are we gonna see you? We're gonna see you in obviously at the Olympia.
Yeah, it's in Orlando, so it's an hour drive away. I gotta go, but I'm just time to grow, man. It's trying to get big. So
You're gonna be walking around the expo at 250 or what?
At least, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
At least.
Beautiful.
I mean, I'm already 240, so like I said, I have a crazy appetite, and it's hard for me to control it. Like, I'm not gonna. If AJ, if you watch this, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna be honest. Like, I've been eating every meal he tells me to eat, but then it might be like, I ate your meal and I added a cookie. I'm sorry.
So you're going to be 270.
270. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show, man. We really appreciate you. Gave us over an hour. I didn't mean to go long on you.
Oh,
And we do like to actually talk about bodybuilding once in a while. We joke about it, and we thought you'd be great to have on because everyone wants to get bigger. Everyone that watches this show is trying to put on size, and you've done a whole bunch of that. That I just love the transition from division to division, and thanks for your input and your wisdom and your experiences on this. And I'm really glad that people heard your story because I think it's important for people to know what they're up against. There's guys like you lurking. There's guys like you lurking at the regional level, and no one knows it. Yeah. No one knows.
I appreciate you having me on and letting me tell my story and everything. Yeah, I mean, I watch all the episodes, so
Flip flop cardio.
Yeah,
I might
thank you
skip
for sharing.
but
thank you for sharing the show too. We much appreciate that. And,
for sure,
helps. That's how we get other people to find out about it. What's up with your YouTube channel? What do you do over there?
That's what I was going to say. I was like, man, I know how much work it takes to do stuff like this. Doing the stuff on my own YouTube channel. Like I got my other laptop right here, like uploading a video right now.
Do you?
And yeah, I'm like, it's not easy. It takes a lot of time and effort. So yeah, I'm happy to support all the, people out there trying to put out content.
Yeah,
but
that's
yeah,
cool.
my YouTube channel is just my name, Jason Lowe. It might be Jason Lowe 87. Yeah, I mean, I put out a lot of like full day of eating videos. That's what most people like.
Yeah.
But I do a lot of training videos as well. A lot of, nutrition and training and stuff for the most part. Day in the life, full day of eating. But most people just like to see me eat. That's the one that gets all the views. I'll put a training video
coming
out.
Up.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, I got 6 plate deadlifts for, 10 reps. And I explained every exercise perfectly and how you should do this. Nobody watches it.
Yeah,
I ate 10 muffins. All the views.
Oh man, I still remember the good old days of the Mitsuru Okabe video.
Oh yeah,
DVD days.
No editing.
And no editing, just fly on the wall. And I still remember that one scene where Jay's sitting there eating a bowl of oatmeal for like what seems like 20 minutes, but
hours.
I would watch him eat the entire bowl.
And I remember like watching Jay's DVD through, I'm watching it through the first time. So I'm sitting there with a bowl of food, watching Jay's video. I remember my girlfriend comes downstairs and she's kind of mulling around in the kitchen and doing her thing and peeking at the TV and, doing her thing. And she finally comes over. She's like, so you're sitting here eating, watching him eat.
It's amazing. That
sums
the
time,
up.
Like
that
it was
sums
like
up 2006. Yeah. That sums up 2006 perfectly. In bodybuilding
perfectly. And she's like, and it was like 10 minutes of him talking. Like, I got some egg whites here.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of cinnamon in my oatmeal. Like that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And at the time, it seemed so absurd. I just had to laugh at myself. I'm like, she's so right. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And now it's millions it's like millions of people's views. That's their whole channel.
Yeah.
It's people watching them eat.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing.
Especially these people that are doing like the giant cheat meals and stuff. Like, I'll get stuck on that when I'm deep in prep, and I'll start watching these videos where people are like going out and doing all these cheat meal challenges and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And they get so many views. They're getting millions of views. They're making so much money on their stuff just for going out and getting like eating junk. like way too, like some food challenge at a restaurant or something.
Yeah, I've heard people call it pig out porn.
Yeah.
You know,
I love it.
What
It's about
somebody
right.
else feel like garbage.
Yeah.
So,
That's what people keep
okay.
requesting me to do, one of those 20,000 calorie challenges. And I'm like, man, I did it once several years ago and I got to like 18,400 calories and I just felt like crap. I couldn't lay on my stomach. I was like, felt horrible.
Yeah.
Like sleep apnea started like that just because of how bloated and stuffed I was. I was like, I don't know if I want to do that again.
Yeah, I'm out.
No. Okay, well, thanks, Jason. We appreciate it. Keep the flip flop cardio going, and
For sure.
and keep watching the show. And then I look forward to running into you again, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. Happy to be on. It's good talking to you.
Bet from the beautiful
Likewise.
paradise of Daytona Beach, where there are no crack addicts sleeping in tents on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Jason.
All right.
We'll talk to you again
Have a
soon.
good one.
Thanks, brother. It's good to meet
Peace.
you.
It's good. Yeah, you too.
Like, share, subscribe, comment, and
Ring the bell.
there we go. You got to bookend the episode with the like, share
I
thing.
feel good.
We got to do that. Okay. Thanks to everybody. Remember the Think Big Patreon. Keep a producer homed. And we appreciate you guys. Thanks again to Jason Lowe for coming on the show. And remember, it's just bodybuilding.